Happens, we've talked about on past walks, that now is very apparent now that the trees are gone, as you can see how ugly a lot of the facades are. So last year, Downtown Fresno Partnership applied for some funds to do some facade work, help some of the property owners do their facades right. And we didn't get it through the city council. We're going to try again this year to do that, but you know, most cities, as I've said on these walks before, really focused on facade renewal, renovation, I should say, and it's something we haven't done. And it's going to be really important as people are now driving up and down Fulton Street that they can see the historic character that we have behind those stucco or some metal, corrugated metal, or a variety of surfaces that are blocking the old buildings. They're also blocking windows upstairs that could be used. Once those windows are uncovered, then you can put the second floor back into use as office or housing or whatever. But with them covered up, they're just dark attics. So you'll probably start hearing as we get closer to June that we're going to be trying to show that there's enough support to peel off some of the federal money the city gets to be able to redo these facades. So, pretty bad. If you were here a couple of months ago, I told you I went through this building with the property owner and he didn't even know it had a second floor. Oh my God. Right? Because see, there's that little door on the left. That's always the giveaway that there was an exterior access to get up there, so it can be run separately. You don't have to walk through the store to get to the stairs or the elevator. But someone had taken those stairs out, so I found the way to get up there and showed him, and it's an entirely usable second floor up there that's not currently under use. Yeah, office space. Most of them were sort of office space for the place up above, but some of them were rented out for attorneys and things like that. Yeah, you can see it's just covered over with stucco. It's really all back there, and stucco is just tedious to remove, so it's a nice little job creator for people to be able to come in and undo that. So what I think about is if you said I want twice as much built space downtown, you would think, how are we ever going to build that much? But actually we can have twice as much space here just by uncovering that facade and then renovating the inside. We didn't even have to build a building. So you can go all the way down this block here and see we go from this stucco to that stucco to aggregate to, we'll see the other facades in that Spanish style building, Pastel Fuero, coming through. But also on this side you'll be able to see like BMAX still has the old kind of corrugated metal facade. So this is something that happened all over the country, putting these facades up, but all over the country they've been taking them down too, and we're lagging in that. But
is that zone both business and residential on the second floor?
So everything here under the new development code is mixed use. Everything on Fulton is required to be ground floor retail, which would include restaurants and that kind of thing. Up above, you can do housing, hotel, office, you name it, rooftop bars, rooftop restaurants, whatever. That is all by right now in the new code. So from 1960s until now, mixed use was mostly illegal. You couldn't have residential above commercial unless you filed a variance. So now we put all that back to the way that it should be and the way it's working all over the country. So again, as long as the important thing for having ground floor retail on your main street is once things get going and some restaurants open and there's some foot traffic, there will be some types of office users that would like to be here just because this becomes a billboard for them. Real estate offices, for example, will rent this space to put pictures of houses, and that really doesn't add to the foot traffic vitality that you want in our downtown. Stockbrokers, other folks like that, some attorneys, maybe tax services, and they take up this valuable space And we know that the more retail we have on this space, the more successful everyone becomes. We don't want people feeding off of the retail activity. Well, we want them adding to the retail activity.
Is this one residential?
This one right now is still office. This building's for sale. It's sort of the only one on the mall that's owned by kind of a faceless corporate investment entity. So you can't really say who the owners are. Most of these buildings you could name the owners, but this one invested when the government users were here, and they bought it for a lot of money, and they're trying to sell it for a lot of money. But you know, they're going to have to come into some alignment with what the market is if they want to sell it. And they've lost the government tenants in there primarily, so it's empty. But these things happen. Things adjust according to the market. So at some point it'll sell, and hopefully someone will buy it who can see better use for it than just 9-to-5 office.
And can it be zoned residential?
Yeah, it's, everything here is zoned residential, commercial, whatever you want to do, pretty much within the law. So you could do half residential and half office, and then 2 years later say the office market is horrible, I'm just going to switch it all to residential, or the opposite, or whatever. So you can really, it becomes much more of a market-driven downtown than having planners try to impose what they think should be here, except for the ground floor retail.
Right.
Yes.
Question.
Justin.
So you're saying that when this is all done, ground floor has to be retail?
Yes.
So what happens to existing tenants who aren't retail?
You can't force anyone out. They're grandfathered in. It's always when the time, you know, if this was legal at the time, then it's still, you can keep it now. But as they move out, I guess was immigration attorneys over here because this was immigration. Now that that's moved and it's vacant, if there still are attorneys in there, they can keep doing it. But at some point, the landlord's even going to say, you know, you came in because it was 75 cents a square foot, cheap, and you're next to immigration. Now with retail, I can probably get $2 a foot. So at the end of your lease, we're going to get a retailer in here. So that transition can happen, and probably will happen. But then the interesting thing I saw when I worked in Pleasanton is after we got things going, then we had those different kinds of office users that wanted to come and take up prime space. So all the people going out to dinner would walk past the pictures of their houses in their window, even though they were closed and not really adding to the foot traffic. Does that make sense? Sort of?
Yes.
Is it fair to say, Craig, that the market has already voted on the Fulton Mall in the sense that most of these properties are in some type of a bidding war or? Okay.
Yeah, the property, the asking prices on most of these properties have already gone up probably 50 to 100% in the last couple years. Asking prices. I think some of them are sort of outpacing the market with what they're asking, so it's not turning over, but it definitely shows the direction that we're going. So many of us believe higher rents are a bad thing because it sounds like it would be really hard for business, right? But those poor business people have to pay higher rent. What we don't think about is the revenue side. If there's more revenue, then you can afford to pay more rent. If you just left it the way it was and jacked up the rents, that would be horrible because there aren't more people to help pay for it. But we know as these things transition that there'll be a lot more people down here, so they should be getting a lot more business, which means that their rent can go up somewhat. The other side is that as we look at vacant buildings like the Helm building, if rents are too low, they can't get a loan to fix up the building. So just as much, we should worry just as much about high rents as we should worry about rents being too low. So Bank of Italy, the same thing. If it's an $18 million project and there are 80,000 square feet and you can only get 50 cents a square foot, you could do the math on that to find out that it'll never pay for itself. So we need rents to come up to what other downtown rents are, say $1.50 to $3 or somewhere in there, so that we can start getting tenants that will pay those rents that justify the renovation costs and can get the financing to be able to do the renovation. So I know we're all big-hearted people. Despite what you've heard about me, I'm actually one of them too. But we need them to come up to some reasonable standard, right? So the other thing is, I was at a California Restaurant Association meeting yesterday. Anthony was there too. But rents aren't quite often the biggest problem, especially for a restaurant. The national average is you're paying about 8% of your gross revenue to rent. You know, your employee costs can be 45%, right? So even though rents are going up, that might not be the biggest challenge for people that want to open restaurants and bars and clubs and coffee houses and all of that. It's pretty small compared to your food costs and your employee costs. So, and again, rents can only stay up as long as the market supports it. So if the property owners say they want $5 a foot and then everyone keeps going out of business, that's not going to work either. So there is kind of a leveling of the market in terms of what the market will bear for our rents. But it's usually not the biggest problem or concern. No one wants to pay more than they have to.